Welcome everybody. We are still waiting. We are still admitting a lot of people right now, and I hope that by another 5-10 minutes we'll be around 100 of them. So I am keeping everybody on mute as of now, and will ask to unmute whenever their chance to speak come. Please make sure that you're looking at the screen. As of now, I am asking to unmute Addison. So Addison is unmute now, and we have with us everybody who is on the screen showing right now. Gokul, Addison, and Gireendra, who are the speakers for today. We have Diwakar, Atul, and Nipun, myself, who are the founders, co-founders of ABAIA, and we have some fantastic volunteers with us: Prashant, Rohit, Parth, and a lot of them others as well. Let me give you a brief about how ABAIA started. Atul Mehra, who is the founder of Shop, met me at one of the networking events in Pune, and he came up with an idea that when IT gave Pune so much of fame and name, why not AI? And that's how we thought of starting this thing called as now as ABAIA. It was called something else before when we were starting. When we started in December, it was December of 2023, and we were 5 people as of now at that time. But now we are a much bigger family. So I'll hand over to Atul and let him talk about how this thing came into his mind.
Yeah, so guys, very warm welcome. I know it's a little cold in Pune, so very warm welcome to all of you. And I think a few of you may be still sleepy, but still, I think the first differentiation that this group, the people who have joined, they have created for themselves because this is the group which has decided to take action on a Saturday morning. While many people, everyone is talking about AI, but very few people are taking actions. So that's the first step, that you have differentiated yourself from rest of the people. So give a pat on your back, and I would say the action, then if it's done over and over in one direction, then it leads to the specialization. And if the specialization comes, then over time you create the differentiation, because in today's world, there are very few people who are persistent going in one direction, and these are hard things in AI. So these are the three keywords around which ABI has been formed: the action, specialization, and differentiation. Before we go to where ABI is there to help you, but the first question comes like, why the audience in this group needs to take an action. It can be just another conversation, like we discuss politics, we discuss AI, we discuss technology. What is so special? Why do we need to do this thing? And my first answer is, like, the people who are thinking about AI but still taking action, I would say there is a flame burning inside them. I mean, it's in their heart, in their brain. They have that idea, that desire, that ambition, maybe to generate a lot of wealth, generational wealth. Maybe some people want to do for something for the country. Some people want to build global business. Some people simply want to have challenges to self-actualize, to become the best version of themselves. But I think that is the reason that people are getting engaged. They are ready to spend this Saturday morning and then come to listen at. Now, the question comes then, where does ABI help? And I'm not going to talk about mission and vision and last things. As I said, the focus is on the actions. And I would give how all these things are coming together, how one network is helping another one. So this conversation with Gokul started when he spotted, like, I think he wrote on Twitter that many of the companies in US, they have hired people as AI heads. And he mentioned, like, some people then, especially the non-IT companies, they're looking for solutions, okay, how to do the transformation and so on. And that's where my conversation started with Gokul. And now there is a point which is very specialized knowledge, which Gokul is going to share. Like, he has worked with the world's best generational companies right in the e-com era, and now he's working in the AI. And now the second dot connects is now we have 70 startups in the ABI group. They have all kind of solutions. Then we made a consulting group within ABI, which is Rohit and Prashant. They're spearheading it. And finally, Hornish and Diwakar, who was spearheading investment part, they talked to Addison and Gireendra, and we got to know that they are also investing in the companies which are built in India, but then for the global scale. So the point is like how these things are coming very, very cohesive, how one network is triggering the another kind of network. So the ABI is about very, very cohesive, specialized knowledge, which compounds over time, like be it enterprise sales, be it investing, be it creating the solutions or the consulting. So these are like four points which we have written in the back on this picture. So the end goal says this topic is also what is the differentiation. The differentiation about ABI is about creating value. When we go to enterprises, we tell them, okay, where you can generate and put AI. When investors come, they can see how the value is getting generated from very near, getting involved into that. And then we create a cohesive group of all the skills which are needed, which creates a network effect for such kind of companies which are being built in India and for the world. I can throw away a lot of numbers, why India is posed to do this, why we are best to do the solutions and so on. But, maybe that's for some other day. And the same theme I'm giving over to now, sir. Why does it think that India is poised for this opportunity of creating solutions for the global scale? So all in all, I'll summarize over here. This group is about cohesive, specialized knowledge, but actions. Like even after this call, I request all the members to take action, talk to people, talk to Diwakar, talk to people where your interest is, and then take it forward. So I'll wrap it up at this point, and I'll give it over to Gireendra, sir.
Thank you so much, Atul. I hope everybody can hear me.
Yeah, we can.
Okay, great. So good morning to everyone. Just a brief introduction. My name is Gireendra Kasmalkar, and I'm the founding managing partner of Pentathlon Ventures, happens to be the first VC fund out of Pune. And we are focused on how tech disrupts use cases across verticals. We are a B2B focused, B2B tech focused fund. So we look at use cases that are getting disrupted with tech. And today, a couple of years back, it was AI, and now it is Gen AI. And it doesn't matter which tech comes up, but that's what we are going to be focusing on. So it is really, from that context, a pleasure to attend this event here. So thanks, Atul, for pulling me in on this. And what I really like about All Bharat AI Association is the fact that is their ambition to become the NASSCOM of AI. And, I from the name itself, it tells me that you are going to be broad-based. You're not going to be focused on only the large companies, but also the smaller companies. You're not going to be focused only on the metros, but also the companies all over India and Bharat. And you may not be focused only on product companies, but also on services companies. That is what I think All Bharat AI Association should be doing. And while, of course, we know that larger companies have their opportunities because there is a big need even in India for creating, for example, an LLM for Indian languages. So these are the kind of plays that, large companies can do. But, our fund thesis has always been, and because we focus on early stage B2B tech companies, that while there will be these giants, and, startups used to be always asked this question, what if Google does this tomorrow? We believe that B2B companies have the opportunity to beat even the large tech giants in the small niche that they focus on. If they have expertise in that small niche, and if they focus on that niche, in that niche, they can get better than even the tech giants, because all said and done, the tech giants are horizontal in their focus. They want to focus on large number of people. So they will be consumer focused. And of course, they get their large data from these people, and they also, their outputs are also for the large number of people. So we have seen those cases happen with earlier technologies that smaller companies have been able to do better. Now, will that happen in Gen AI is the question. And we definitely think so. I mean, prima facie, it looks like GenAI is a large company play. Who else will have the resources of to create these kind of LLMs? Who else will have the access to this kind of humongous data that is required to build these kind of LLMs? But I'll make a different point. I do believe that the adoption of GenAI, I'm not necessarily talking about the building of the technology, but the adoption of AI is probably going to happen faster in the smaller companies. And why do I say that? Because in a way that GenAI is democratizing things. So the smaller companies may have tools that they may not have access to, which only the bigger companies may have had to with GenAI. And that is why they could now punch above their weight in a way because they have GenAI with them. And that's where I see a lot of opportunity, not just in India, but globally for the smaller companies to make their mark, find their place in the universe, in this tech world. And now, if you look at it, who will be serving the smaller companies? Clearly, there are the large AI companies will serve the larger companies, but the smaller companies, the smaller user industries will be served by the smaller AI companies. And what do they need to do to be able to do this solutioning? First of all, they must be really good at AI. They must be able to use GenAI very, very well. They must be clearly apart from all of their competitors. But the other thing must be that they must have really good domain knowledge of that particular niche. They must focus on a niche, and in that niche, they must be really good in terms of domain. They could build on top of the existing LLMs, but they could be very efficient because of their knowledge of the business domain that they are focused on. They could build SLMs, for example. They don't have to use LLMs. They could be using SLMs, small language models for those particular niches. So that is the opportunity that these companies do have. Now, one more factor I should mention here, that when they are working on the data, this data for the enterprises in the B2B mode, this data is belonging to the enterprises. So in that sense, whatever is being built for the enterprises, and which means that there is an opportunity for services companies, because the product companies may not necessarily have the data themselves. The data is the companies that are working with the enterprises, they are owning the data. And by the way, this is the data that even the large tech giants are not going to have. They are going to have the data of the consumers. A lot of data, maybe even more than the consumer data, is lying within the enterprises. And that is the big opportunity for smaller companies to work with these enterprises. And that's where I'm pointing out that some of these successful companies in going forward, and we as a fund also has to take into account this fact that so far, funds like us would focus on just the product companies, that it could be opportunity for services companies as well. So that's the, exciting part of how this whole democratization is going to happen because of GenAI. And in our minds, B2B is going to help with that democratization. Now, a lot of us worry about the jobs that are going to be lost because of GenAI. And, there is, of course, some truth to it, in the sense that the development jobs and testing jobs. I mean, the fact is that we had a very, very successful run for the IT companies, and it's still going on, of course, from the 90s. And a lot of IT jobs were created, a lot of wealth was created, a lot of careers were built because of that. To suddenly think that these development and testing jobs will go away because of GenAI is a big challenge for India. But as it has happened over the years, over the decades, over the centuries, whenever a new tech comes, it brings into its footprint a much larger number of users than before. So I believe that's going to happen with GenAI as well, that the user universe will expand dramatically. And what does typically any tech do? Essentially, it brings personalization, it brings real-time solutions to the new people that have come into the fold. And that is where I think the opportunity lies for smaller companies to bring Gen AI to those new people who are coming in their specific context, whether it is smaller companies, whether they're individuals, and so on. The other fact of life is that while Gen AI can do a lot of things, there are things like healthcare and edutech which need human touch. At the end of the day, the services cannot be completed unless there is a human touch. And so that's another,
more jobs.
That will create jobs, absolutely. And that's needed in India. So for example, in India, we cannot overlook the fact that we need to create a lot of employment. And so that is definitely going to be required. That human touch is going to be required. But what GenAI can do there is it can train and skill these nurses and teachers that much more faster. Those are the other opportunities that AI companies can look at as well. That will help the propagation of GenAI and hence building those jobs as well. So lots of
Thank you so much,
opportunities. I'm really
Gireendra.
excited about it. And I'm really glad ABAI has picked up this mantle. I wish them all the best. And with that, I close my brief keynote, because like everyone else, I'm also very keen to listen to Gokul and Addison and the others in this session. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Gireendra. Thank you for that wonderful remarks and giving the group a bigger picture, which is always what people with experience look at. Thank you very much. I'll give a brief about the three founders which are founding the ABAIA. So I am Chartered Accountant Company Secretary Nipun Sikri and practicing in Diwakar in Pune, Maharashtra, because I know we have international audience as well. So Diwakar, Pune, Maharashtra. And other one we have Atul. I hope everyone knows, but he is the founder of ABAIA-Shop, which is an AI-based solution. When he was in Germany a couple of years back, he got this idea and moved back to India and specifically Pune. And now we are here. The third one, we have the strongest pillar of the team is Diwakar, who has a lot of experience in letting you know that how to not run a startup, because he has experience in starting these ideas, and due to one thing or the other, he'll guide you more about the journey. Diwakar, over to you, and then you can just go ahead.
Thank you
very
very
much.
much. So do a very brief introduction about myself. I am an investment banker by training, and I have also have a lot of experience in mergers and acquisition, along with investing in startups as well as founding startups as well. And I firmly believe that artificial intelligence is a domain of the future, and that's where we have to look at opportunities. So without further ado, I would like to introduce our co-panelists, Addison and Gokul. So I think we'll start out with the introduction, with their respective introduction of Addison. Why don't you start, and then over to the Gokul.
Hey, I don't know. I was on mute. Am I audible?
Yes, sir. Please go ahead.
Awesome. So a quick introduction. This is my 20th year, mostly in financial services. Work for large bulge bracket investment banks, private equity, and venture capital. Now I'm part of Singapore headquartered venture capital firm. We have invested in 22 odd companies globally. 3 of them are AI startups. 2 of them are Y Combinator funded startups. Lot of interest in tech and tech-enabled companies in India and Southeast Asia. We have recently started a 100 crore fund in India only to make India investments. That's a brief about ourselves, myself, and thanks Diwakar for giving me this opportunity to come here and talk about our experiences. The sectors that we broadly talk about and are interested in are within the framework. In the next decade, will define that as Gireendra rightly pointed. AI will definitely play a huge part. With the deluge of data, there will be a lot of data security that will be required. So cyber security will play a very critical part. With climate changing day in, day out, deserts having flash floods, and we are having strong heat wave conditions. I think climate sustainability will play a big part, and this can again see a lot of AI interventions. And of course, consumer stories will also play out from maybe tier 2, tier 3 part of the country, which will be aided by tech and tech innovations. So broad pillars is something that we are looking at.
So thank you, Addison, and we'll come more to when we go into deeper questions. Gokul, your introduction, please.
Thank you again for having me. It's great to be here. I'm an investor and company helper. I've been in Silicon Valley for the last 25 years and was lucky to work and discover predictive AI, which is like Dr. Gireendra said, is similar. It's a predecessor to generative AI, machine learning, essentially classifying in 2005. It was really in advertising and search when we started seeing predictive AI. So I've been lucky to just observe predictive AI, and then over the last 2-3 years, generative AI. Almost every company I've involved in over the last 2 years is using generative AI, and so excited to be part of this and to hopefully contribute to the dialogue. Again, congratulations on building an incredible community here in Pune, to the ABAIA team, and excited to be part of this. Thank you again, Atul, Diwakar, and team for having me.
Thank you, Gokul. So now we start with our specific questions for you. So my first question to Gokul is, some people say AI is overhyped, while others are investing and building the products. So in current view, how far the enterprises in actuality on AI adoption and spending on AI products and solutions?
It's a great question. At the highest level, a technology can both be overhyped and underhyped at the same time. And I think the reality is AI is probably a little bit overhyped, but over the long term, over the next 10 years, I'm sure many of you, I will never forget the moment in my life when I saw the Mosaic browser in real life. It was at the UT Austin Computer Science Lab, and that was very similar to the sensation I got when I used ChatGPT for the first time. And so over the last, I've never quite seen a technology take off this rapidly. I think there's been 3 moments: the browser, the iPhone or mobile internet, and then now this is the third wave. And the top 2 things that enterprises are using AI for today is customer support automation and engineering augmentation. So if you think about AI, there's 3 things you can do. One is you can be an assistant or a co-pilot, which is what many engineers using GitHub Copilot or other copilots. Second, you can do augmentation, where you can essentially help folks do their job better. Many contact centers and call centers using AI to do their job better. And third is replacement. And so in customer support and customer service, AI bots are actually replacing customer support, especially for more commoditized queries. And you're seeing companies are seeing a 60-70% reduction in customer support costs. For tier 1 customers, you still have human AI hybrid, but for tier 2, tier 3 customers, especially on the consumer side, you're going to see massive displacement of human AI agents. And then on engineering, you're going to see augmentation and improvement. I think outside of those, almost every function is exploring how to use AI to improve, to either augment, be a co-pilot, or assist. But I think those 2 are the first 2 which we're seeing massive. And then creative agencies, maybe marketing is a close third, where of course, generative AI is all about generating content, and marketing is also about generating content. There's a lot of good companies, in fact, many out of India, a company called Pepper Content and several others who are doing content generation, text content, image content, and now video content. Over the next few months, you're going to start seeing all of that happening through AI. So marketing.
Great. And Addison,
what are you seeing?
Yeah. Addison, over to you. Your observation the same, particularly since you invest in India and Southeast Asia.
So I resonate with Gokul a lot. What we have seen is the industry has evolved in the last 5-7 years. When AI was first discussed around 2005 onwards, there was the OpenAI. Google started with this transformer business in 2003, and then Meta started it. And then now we have the Switch Transformer, which is Google's latest AI product. In between, open source has given us GPT, ChatGPT 4 is the latest buzzword. We have also seen Indian large language model training coming up in Bharat GPT, Sarvam AI, and Bhashini. Where the business stands today and use cases that we have seen is about 25-26% is mostly on content contract center automation. There is 20-odd% on personalization, 22% on customer acquisition, about 22% on AI product enhancement, and then only 20% is now on new AI products. As the underlying AI layer keeps improving because AI will require a lot of data. India story is building up, second largest mobile market, data deluge, digital infrastructure in form of the AI stack is improving. That is then giving birth to a lot of cutting edge algorithms. India will become the second largest pool of AI talent in the world. And the third and the most critical part that we are seeing is a lot of the companies are building in India for the Bharat. So basically spending in rupees to earn in dollars. So from that perspective, we see a lot of good opportunities coming up. AI co-pilots are helping in collaboration and product efficiency. So overall, the market is moving in the right direction, creating a lot of opportunities. And as I introduced in my earlier short spiel, is that we believe that AI will be a game changer. It will not just facilitate, but it will proliferate in every day of life. Mundane repetitive jobs may be a danger, but highly skilled, high paid jobs will be also on the table very, very shortly. And you have seen a lot of those major universities and even good colleges starting up AI courses, which I think, like the IT revolution in the late 80s, early 90s, where all of the IT businesses came to India, I think a lot of this AI business and talent pool will sit in India, which will create great ecosystem for the third largest startup ecosystem, which will probably go to the second largest shortly.
Great, great, thank you. So, in terms of now, so when you talk about AI, we are usually the headlines are the larger companies, corporations. But when it comes to smaller AI startups, like those with a funding of less than 5 million, what are the key opportunities and white spaces that they can target, which may not be as lucrative for the larger enterprises for now? So Gokul and then Addison, you can add in your piece.
I think it's a misconception that only large and well-funded startups can tap AI. I think to build foundational models, for sure, you've got to be large and have a lot of capital, access to compute, etc. But the beautiful thing is, because the number of AI models has expanded, there's at least 4 large closed source models and 2 open source models, Mistral and Llama. It's very easy now. Even college students can actually create an AI app with very little difficulty. I think Gireendra referred to this. And so we are seeing a proliferation of interesting AI companies, both vertically and horizontally. By horizontal, I mean taking a function and automating or augmenting it. For example, taking marketing and automating or augmenting it, creating a co-pilot, or taking a vertical where you go and really understand that vertical extremely well and create an AI-enabled service or some other way to take a lot of work that was being done manually, repetitive work, and just automate it and augment it away. And we can talk more about that. I think a good example, like I said, is out of India, there's several good and fairly scaled. They're all at 10 million, 5 to 10 million revenue content companies that have basically built marketing tools. And they're basically, many of them, their customers are in the US. They're used to basically manage the entire content stack all the way from SEO articles, blogs, but also images, marketing material, collateral, etc. So that's a great and very rich. And these companies, they've raised more, but they started by raising $2 or $3 million or something like that. So that's a great thing. I think you can actually now get started with AI very, very easily and create a reasonably compelling AI app with fairly limited capital. So I think a $3 million seed round, $2 to $3 million seed round can get you fairly far, thanks to the cost of these models coming down dramatically. Even compared to 6 months ago, the cost per token is much lower. And I think fierce competition is going to drive costs even lower.
So in that, I actually had another question, which I'll take it forward, is basically, apart from computing cost, what are the other typical capital what are the type of capital needed which can take the AI startup to the next level? And Addison and then Gokul can give the views.
See, there are various costs. Obviously, building the foundation AI and then application tools on top of it is the major business, because once you get the basics right, you can just replicate it for various industries. Although personalization and customization will play a part, which will entail upgrades and updates of the basic model over a period of time. Having said that, I kind of agree with So we have invested in a competition for paper content called Dresma. It's a Gen AI company. It's also funded by Inventess, which is Kamal Ricky's fund in US. So we see a lot of personalization work getting into the AI space, where we feel that a lot of these businesses will now start spending on user experience, customer acquisition, and that is where product enhancements will also take place. But spending on new AI products, that is something, one area where we feel that the next churn will come.
And Gokul, your views on the same?
I think the costs beyond compute, like Addison said, one are of course having the right talent. I think you need. The good news is I think you do probably need it. Some companies have created their own fine-tuned models, and so you do need maybe a different level of talent to, if you are creating a model of your own on top of the foundation models, a more verticalized model, you do probably need folks who are skilled in that. But outside of that, it's data. It's actually acquiring enough data, and you don't need a huge amount, but I think you need at least a few thousand instances of high quality data to train your model. After that, you can use something called synthetic data to train. But I think that's where India, and I think the amount of services work that we've done, many companies have done, that is very, very rich data. I know a company, I'll keep their name, I won't mention who they are, keep them anonymous, but they were essentially an outsourcing company for engineering. And they used all the data that their engineers, that were generated by the engineers' work to essentially start selling this data to model companies, to foundation model companies, because there's a lot of appetite to buy real life high quality data from companies. I bet even things like medical scans and all of those things are high quality data that model companies will want. As you probably saw, Reddit was the first public example of Reddit. I think was making 60 million a year just selling their data to. And Reddit is, I think, more news and interesting data, but not necessarily accurate data. I think there were a lot of things that Google was buying from Reddit, and people were gaming Google because there were all kinds of crappy data. So if you have high quality data, there's actually companies that are being started just to generate high quality data and then selling it, engineering each area. So I think India in particular, there's obviously vast amounts of data. Now, if someone can sort and sift high quality data, that could be a very interesting thing. But that's, I think, a major cost. How do you get differentiated high quality data to train your system?
And just to add to what Gokul is saying, three other areas where it will require a lot of inputs is, one is specialization, because you will require to spend on specialization. Outcome, that is another area which will require a lot of focus. And third is toxicity bias. You have to remove the toxicity bias, thereby ensuring that the data gives the clear and other AI applications where there is toxicity bias coming in. So that the pool will be driven by these three. So specialization, of course, industry specific, outcome data, which is analysis of the outcome data, where you will require a lot of energy. And third is toxicity bias removal. And overarching will be the security layer as well, because given that you will have to deal with so much of data, you will have to put a protective layer on top. So one of the cost components will be security also.
And then if we talk about Indian startups, so which are the areas where you see Indian startups being stronger, can compete better against their global counterparts? And how can they build a sustainable moat, both in B2B as well as B2C context? Gokul, your views?
The number one area I think where Indian startups can do well is, I think, almost every service, whether it's accounting, law, every service within a company, every function is ultimately going to be disrupted and going to be outsourced to AI. I'm sure many of you have read this phrase called service as a software, which is the opposite of software as a service. But essentially, a service will be accessible as an API call. And I think Indian companies are well positioned to literally offer the service as an API call. At some point, 10 years from now, there will be companies that are run with maybe 10 people and are doing 100 million in revenue. Why? Because every function is completely outsourced. And to build such a company that can outsource a complete function, you need a lot of data, and you need a company that is combining human and AI together to start with. And you slowly use that data to train the AI model and get it better, but it's not afraid to get their hands dirty with human input. And so I think that's really the area that India can shine where, for example, I'll give you an example. I think call center is a great example, right?
Right. Mhm.
There is no way that in 7 years, call centers are going to exist. There's no way.
Right.
I mean, they will maybe exist for extremely complex,
Yeah.
extremely high-end calls. Maybe for Amex Platinum members, they need to talk to a human being or something like that.
Mhm.
For the vast majority of call centers, it has to be replaced by AI agents. It will, because voice AI has, I remember OpenAI showed me a demo 15 months ago, and it was pretty good. But now the demos are mind-blowing. And so I think call centers are going to be completely replaced. What's the best companies that can replace call centers? Indian companies, because they will have the data. They already
Right.
have the call center data. They already have the people. So it would be crazy if a US company builds an AI call center. It has to be. And I think hopefully entrepreneurs of this call or others build the first AI call center, which can handle. And in fact, there are a couple of companies, but you've got to focus again, call centers. The healthcare call center is different from insurance call center, is different from credit card call
Right.
center. You've got
Right.
to be also focused. But I bet you those are the kinds of things that we are providing the service from India. Let's automate the hell out of it and deliver it for 90% less cost, but with a human touch as needed.
So, and in terms of the moat, Addison, especially Gokul talked about a B2B contest. What about the B2C contest that you see for
Yeah.
Indian startups?
So we have devised and this will come up in the further discussions. We call it prosumer market.
Mhm.
Professionals and consumers mixed together. It's called prosumer, not consumer or not professional. So the workflows are divided into deep knowledge workflows and light knowledge workflows. When it comes to light knowledge workflows, you will get to all those call center jobs. And this is professional and artistic. So content creation falls into the artistic domain. Professional works will be law, your mundane activities, which were repetitive in nature, like calling, chatbots. All those things will slowly but surely get automated through the AI. And you have great examples on the professional artistic. On the professional side, you will have companies which have already done a lot of good work, like the bigger ones are like Canva and Dubverse and Unbounce. On the artistic side, you have Pixel AI, Stability AI.
Right.
But having said that, the B2B will be the easier way to go, because then it pushes into the B2C market. Direct B2C, like a chat GPT, the artistic content creation is already, a lot of people are using Gemini and chat GPT for the mundane letter writing, article writing work. So all those article writing, low touch point works will completely get automated through AI. And the deep knowledge work will require a lot of data collection and then storing it and then using it as a AI layer for further enhancements.
Right. And when you look at from the investment point of view, when you look at a moat, uh, how how do you evaluate it? Like, let's say there are a lot of products which look similar on the outside, but when we go deeper, like let's say compare an MSFT Copilot with your Perplexity, then on the surface it will look to me like a chatbot, but when you go deeper, there will be differences. So how do you determine, like for example, language models? Like right now, translation. Pretty much there will be probably hundreds of apps around that which basically translate from, let's say, English to Russian or and so on. And so how do you, if you have to see a different startup, what will you use to determine where one startup has a better competitive positioning than the other? What is the criteria that you typically use to evaluate?
See, basically, there are two critical factors in when you are dealing with tech. One is redundancy and commoditization, and the second is basically use and scale. So both play a critical part when you are evaluating it. Redundancy and commoditization can be protected through patents, because once we are looking at it, a particular startup, if there is defensibility moat around it, at least from the tech perspective, which probably even if you throw marketing dollars or development dollars at it, will still take a year, then there is a strong defensibility moat while you are making that investment. When it comes to use and scale, procurement of the data, analysis of the data, and then giving a proper outcome is also have to be measured while you're doing this. In the translation services, as you rightly pointed, we have looked at a lot of companies which are trying to build for India, and then it can be replicated for the global perspective. Similarly, when it comes to industry specific information, so healthcare, education, construction, we are looking at a lot of intervention from AI, and those startups uh, have an early mover advantage, but at the same time, if they don't keep spending on it, improving it, then there will be.
I think we lost Addison. I think Gokul, you can chip in with your views in the meantime.
Yeah, I think, to be honest, I think it's going to be hard for horizontal AI plays to differentiate themselves. There are benchmarks, for example, for software engineering AI agents. There is a benchmark called SWE agent. There's a few others. And so everyone's like every new startup that's released, I'm an investor in one, for example, they are crushing everyone else. But the problem is it's a race to just, I think those races are going to be hard, I think, to declare a winner, because every few months there's going to be a new model, there's going to be improvement. I think it's going to be hard. Instead, you've got to use, in order to win, you've got to have a differentiated distribution strategy in some way. And I think Copilot, for example, is leveraging, GitHub Copilot is leveraging the fact that GitHub is used by millions of developers. So it's actually a fairly easy one. And I think they have the inside edge, because the problem is almost anything remarkable that a startup launches, the incumbent has it. Or the way that startups can win is by focusing on niches, which look like niches, but they're actually deep verticals where the incumbents are not going to, because incumbents are going to be horizontal by nature. So you select a niche and you just double down on the niche, and you don't just double down as software, but you go deep and you go down to things that appear non-scalable, and you take on more parts of the stack. And so that's the kind of stuff you got to do, where, because incumbents will say the software layer, increasingly believe that pure software increasingly will be commoditized. It's so easy to build software now that just having pure software will not be enough. You've got to couple software with one or two layers down deep, maybe services, maybe something else that make it truly differentiated. I think pure software is going to be very hard to build a moat around unless you have an incumbents distribution.
Right. So next we move to the so AI is generally a long-term game. Like it's like a marathon rather than a 100-meter dash. So,
right.
but when from a startup's perspective, when you look at the opportunity, you typically look at what is the short-term opportunity, let's say in the next couple of years, versus long-term strategy, which is in the 10 years. So when it comes to the Indian startups, in your view, what they should focus on in the short term versus medium to long term?
In the short term, you've got to understand, like with any customer, you've got to truly understand what problem are you solving and for who, and truly understand and be very specific. I think many startups suffer from the problem of being too broad. They don't truly understand the problem they're solving, and they don't truly understand a segment of customer. I think, yes, it's important to have a broad vision, but it's even more important to start small and very specific. For example, the last company I worked at, DoorDash, they started delivering food in Palo Alto, not the Bay Area, but Palo Alto. They nailed Palo Alto. They didn't even go to San Francisco for 1 year. Then they went to another part of the Bay Area. It took them, I think, 2 years or 1.5 years to get to all of the Bay Area. And then they blitzkrieg across the country. And so you've got to be very focused on solving a specific problem, on nailing how you're solving it, and truly making sure you're adding value to your customer. Because ultimately, today's age, what does the customer pay for? They pay for something that increases revenue, reduces cost, or increases efficiency by 10x. If you're not able to do one of those three things, you should reevaluate, and you can't measure what you're doing. You should reevaluate what you're doing. And ideally, it's for a very specific target customer. So that's a thing you've got to do in the short term. To earn the right to be a general platform, you've got to do these very specific things.
Right.
So that's what I think. Too many startups are trying to. When I ask them, "Who's your customer?" All technology companies. That's too broad.
Right.
All
Yeah.
tech companies. There's 1 million tech companies. Be
Right.
more specific. Is it enterprise, mid-market, SMB? Is it a certain vertical? And so you've got to be very, very, very focused. And one way to know if you're focused enough or not is, once you say, here's your ideal customer profile, you should be able to go to that customer profile. And if you ask them, is this the pain you're having, and is the solution going to solve your problem? Hopefully the conversion rate should be more than 90%, where they're like, yes, I'm having this pain. If it's only 20%, that means you haven't yet narrowed down your ICP in a more narrow way. Again, this has nothing to do with AI, it's more startup 101, but it's even more important in AI because but the AI gives you so much power that startups say, oh, I'm going to solve the world's problems. It ain't going to work that way. You've got to solve the problems of a very specific segment and go deep before you earn the right to go broad. Addison, you're just talking about
Yeah,
how should someone think about
sorry
something
guys,
that's
sorry
near
guys.
term versus long term.
There was
we-
a 2-minute power outage and I was scrambling for my portable hotspot.
Okay, no worries. Maybe in some future we'll have some AI fix that as well.
There you go.
Power outage, especially in India where there's some lot of places that have intermittent outages. So that's the short-term opportunity, and in the medium term, I presumably it will be like once you have found your focus area and right solution, then you can basically look at scaling that up. In
Correct,
that,
you broaden from
and
there.
then you go for a broad-based approach, because a lot of startups, when you go see the pitch, they are talking like a roadmap which is 20 years down the way, but and that's when they get distracted sometimes in that sense.
Exactly. Well said.
Right. And okay, so and the one of the opportunities that we are seeing, I think Gokul also tweeted about it a few months back, was consulting. So basically, a lot of Fortune 500 countries have budgets, but they need help on implementing AI solutions in their organizations, and that's where we see consulting companies coming into the picture. Like Accenture recently announced that they are targeting $1 billion quarterly revenues from the consulting. Even McKinsey is slated to get $300 million per quarter on the consulting. So where do you see opportunities in consulting, especially for the Indian Indian startups? Would it be like a newer startups, or would it be the traditional IT consulting companies like your Infosys or TCS, which will come to the picture in that? So Addison, your view, and then Gokul can chip in this.
I believe that there will be a lot of, as I said, in deep workflows, professional services like lawyers, law work, because there's very specific data form that you have, and then you can just, when you are referring to a particular case, you find out the reference of that case from the history, how the judgment went. So all this can be used and automated through AI. Number one. Number two, when you're talking about specific use cases in the consulting work also, a lot of work is actually repository based, because once you have done a long study on a particular sector for a particular client, most of the work is then recycled or just updated when the opportune time comes.
Right.
That all can be done through AI. And I do believe that Gokul had tweeted, you will see a lot of within the prosumer market, you will see a lot of these workflows getting automated. Smaller companies can build smaller products around it, which then can be acquired. So if you look at today, Microsoft's suite, it is a bundle of so many other apps which they have acquired over a period of time. I think they
Right.
all big companies will have such smaller suites where you bundle, say, 10 or 12 services. If you look at Google's current cohort in India, they have invested in 12 companies. Some are automating PPT work, some are automating Excel work, some are automating Word work. There is competition to Canva. So all these smaller pockets of work which required maybe 2 or 3 man days to get a particular outcome will be automated, and a lot of these consulting businesses will also use them for their own growth path.
Well said. I think you've got to start with a specific task or a piece of work to be automated, ideally by a specific vertical. I think trying to go after Microsoft and trying to replace Accenture's work with Microsoft is just boiling the ocean. Start with an industry and start with a specific thing they have. Could be integrations, right? Every company has to do integrations. I think, for example, every doctor, every lawyer in the US has to integrate 10 systems. If we can do that well, initially, a lot of those are done by people today. If you can build AI to do integrations, that could be an interesting niche. But you've got to start with something very specific and then slowly broaden to other needs. Because remember, Infosys, all of these companies started with niches to start with. And then, of course, 25, 30 years later, they're much bigger. But you've got to start small and be excellent. And then you build, again, you've got to earn the right. So all of these things you've got to earn. And that's how you collect data. You understand what it means to build an AI vertical end to end.
Great. So
and one more thing, this is if I put my investor hat, and this is for some of the founders who may or who are there on the call today.
Right.
When you are raising money, raise for a specific purpose. It is very important to fast fail than slow burn. Okay, you pick up a ideal scenario where you want to penetrate and make a strong use case, acquire customers, and then play the M&A market, because the way the tech is evolving and the larger guys putting in money, what is relevant today will become redundant tomorrow, until unless you have constant upgrades and upgrades.
Right.
Okay. So it is very necessary that you target an area, build a product, acquire customers, and then look for either an exit, because then the capital also rotates. And if you require further capital like an Elon Musk to just make sure that you make Tesla the EV company of the world, then further capital will also follow you, just because you need the upgrades and the upgrades.
Right.
So
So
from a
Thank you very much, Diwakar.
founder
I'll
psyche.
just,
Sure,
Addison,
sure.
sorry to disturb. I'll request everyone to write out their questions in the chat box, and whatever is selected by Diwakar, I'll let you come to the mic and video, and you
Or we
just
can ask the,
again.
right, or we can ask the question on their behalf. So I will do that. So yeah, but I totally agree with Addison, because there's several situations that I have seen wherein the technology, what solution the startup is offering is great, but from the investor point of view, it becomes how quickly is the team turning around the new innovations and keeping abreast with it, because what they may be doing right now may get them a few dollars now, but 2 years later their technology becomes redundant and nobody is buying, and unless you're on the continuous innovation curve. So I think the organizations which are continuously innovating, are doing R&D, coming using the new technology, developing new technology, those are the ones which will stay at the forefront. So now we pick up some questions from the audience, and so one of the questions from Neeraj is, one challenge will be high quality resources. Are Indian universities doing enough? What alternatives do you see emerging? Gokul, Addison, whoever wants to go first.
I think they are actually doing a good job. I do see, if you look at almost any AI course online, Indian engineers or Indian students are the number one essentially students who are studying all of these online courses. I do think I think it would be great to have, just like Google, I think, seeded a lot of very talented engineers in Facebook with the establishment of Google's arm in Bangalore. I think it would be great. I think Databricks is Databricks, I think there's a big center of Databricks, I think in either Pune or Bangalore, I forgot where. But I think Databricks, for example, I think so you're going to see, as AI products are built from US companies with their India offices, you're going to see that talent migrate. Because I believe in the 70-20-10 model of learning. 10% you learn from watching videos, 20% through a mentor, but 70% you learn by doing things. Right. So the reality is you've got to work on this to actually learn. And the only way you work on real production stuff is if you actually work on real production stuff. So I think all of us who did computer science, the reality is you learn this theory, but till you actually write your first piece of production software, right, you're like, oh my God, it's so different from what you do in projects. So I think the good news is it's all democratized. You can download Mistral, you can download Llama, and you can start building it yourself. So what you need is, I think we place a lot of emphasis in our Indian society basically on educational credentials and going through the process. We need more hackers who are basically just building stuff because they love building stuff and experimenting versus going through a 4-year process, because that's not how you learn things proactively.
Great. And another question from Shweta Kamble. How does a young startup get distribution advantage? Is partnership the only way? Addison, your views?
No, it's a fantastic question. I mean, hustling is the nature of being a founder and an entrepreneur, and you need to have patience also. The P in the entrepreneurship is about patience. But having said that, yes, partnerships with the right set of stakeholders will definitely help you to expand. I would also go one step further, and you should have a mentor. When I say mentor from the industry who he or she can then enable your progress, because they will come from two mindsets. One is, of course, reaching out to the right, setting you up with the right stakeholders. Second is you can learn from their experience as well, because it is very important. You may know what to do, but it is very important what not to do, because it will save you time and resource. So it works both ways. One is, of course, through the partnerships, but I would strongly recommend that if you can get an advisor on board, who he or she can then help you open doors, it will be much faster progress.
The more focused you are, I think it's a great question. The reality is if you understand who your customer is, the more focused you are, the more the answer will reveal itself. For example, if your customers are dentists, then guess what? There is like 15 dental conventions or dentist conventions that you can go to, and they are basically all there, or 20 dentist communities. So the more focused you are, the answer reveals itself, because that means that you're understanding your customer very clearly. There's a company called Spine out of India, SPYNE. I just learned about them, Spine.ai. They service auto dealerships in the US, and they've basically done really well by basically doing AI generated photo galleries and images for auto dealerships in the US. And how do you acquire auto dealerships? Guess what? There's a directory of auto dealerships in the US. You can actually fairly easily reach them. But you got to be very specific. Auto dealerships, for example. And so I think, again, if you try to say, well, I want to serve the world, then of course, I don't know how to acquire those people, right? But the more specific you are, and then you build your muscle and you go from there.
So next
Before
question.
we take on another question, I'll request everybody to just show their faces, video on, so that we can click a very good picture.
Just to add to what in the last question, the investor mindset is if you're focused on one thing, the money comes much faster. If you show the broader picture, we all understand how much time it will take to build a particular category. So trying to do too many things at the same point in time doesn't help.
Right. So another question is from Akshay. How do investors look at companies such as Swath Robotics, Garuda Drones AI, and other hardware in loop AI solutions? Addison?
So we are very interested in deep tech. We have already invested in a magnet-free motor company based out of Germany, US. We have done 3 investments in deep tech in India. Swap Design is building autonomous robots for electric 4 vehicles for battery swapping. Symmetricals is a hardware company which has created a wireless EV charger for companies, both 2-wheelers and 3-wheelers. Swap Design is into AI for port automation, which also requires an IoT.
Right.
So we are very open. See, we all believe that when you talk about deep tech, it will be a mix of hardware and software with perhaps an AI ML layer on the top, or maybe computer vision NLP on the top. So when you're building hardware, always try and see if you can pass on it to the consumer, or ensure that it is OPEX as CAPEX at a given point in time, so that major part of your revenues potential from future clients should be driven 70-30 in favor of software. Then it becomes a classic business. Otherwise, you should be able to procure and manufacture in your own country, thereby reducing the cost. If you have supply chain dependencies in deep tech, which requires a lot of hardware, then you may face roadblocks when you expand.
So one other question is from Deepesh, who runs a startup.
And that would be the last question.
Yeah, actually, we may take one more, but I'll just go with that. So a lot of enterprises do not know how exactly to approach Gen AI solutions. So how do you suggest we approach enterprises and get a foot in the door with an AI solution? I believe that's a consulting question, correct?
I think AI for the sake of AI is not going to really get you into the door. You've got to approach it from a point of view of solving a problem, right? Ultimately, AI is simply a tool that, of course, solves problems in amazing ways. But what is just like today, if someone says, I'm a mobile company, what the hell does that mean? Everyone's in a mobile company. I'm pretty sure that 10 years from now, everything's going to be an AI company. It's all going to be around what problems are you solving and for who. So instead of saying I'm an AI company, focus on what problem you're solving, and ideally articulate the value of the problem you're solving in either increased revenue, reduce cost, or 10x improvement in efficiency. Those are the 3 pillars. If you hit one of those things, I'll give you an example. DoorDash is using Snowflake. I think we were spending a lot of capital on Snowflake as a data warehouse. And so another large warehousing company came to us and said, well, we want to replace Snowflake. We were like, well, we don't know. We don't have time to do that. But then they said, well, we'll offer our solution to you for 50% less than what you're paying Snowflake. Reduce costs. Right there, our CFO got involved, and we figured out how to have Snowflake and this other solution in parallel. So they spoke the language. That's the thing. Companies don't have patience for yet another technology. They have patience for things. They want to listen to things that will either increase my revenue, reduce my costs, improve my
Right.
operating efficiency. So you got to frame your solution in terms of one of those three things.
And a final question is, especially for students who have joined this webinar, what is going to be the impact of job market from all the AI solutions, as we talked about how a lot of redundant resources get replaced. So what's your view on the job market? Especially this is more for the students' point of view who are attending this webinar.
Addison, what do you think? I can go last.
Okay, so sure. See, as I said, always go for when you are a student, think about what sort of value addition you want to do in your life, in your career, in your CV, and all to the organization where you want to join. There is the cost reduction way of thinking it, and then there is the revenue augmentation thinking. When you are cost center, then you are always at risk, because once the price arbitrage plays out, there may be a high redundancy in your work. But when you are a revenue generating segment, then you are always protected, because every organization requires people who can help them to grow the businesses. So long and short answer of this is, when you are picking up courses or wanting to make a career, think about just one thing, that what is the work you want to do. There is an 8-hour job which may get commoditized and redundant, but if you are adding value add services to your profile, then you are always employable. So while there is a risk of losing certain very low end, repeatable, mundane jobs through the advent of tech or proliferation of tech, but I do believe it opens up an opportunity of AI engineers, AI pool, talent, which will be required by even larger organizations to keep updating and upgrading their current modules. So the opportunity lies in where you see yourself. And while the lower end of the spectrum will see churn and loss of jobs, but it will entail creating very high value addition jobs at the top as well.
Gokul,
Well
your
said.
concluding comments?
Yeah.
Thank
I'd say
you.
the number one thing that college should give you is the ability to learn how to learn. What that means is you need to figure out how to learn something new. Because let's face it, now anyone who's graduating today, every few years, what you're learning is going to get, what you learned 5 years ago is going to get outmoded. So you need to be able to continuously and proactively learn new things and know how to do that. I think if you are not proactive, and you need to learn proactivity, how do I improve myself and keep, because if you just stay, I think, Addison, if you just stay where you are, and it's true for all of us in careers, right? Not just students. If we stay where we are, if we stayed where we were 5 years ago, guess what? Technology is going to pass us by. And we probably see that in prior generations where the pace of technology change was not as rapid as it is today. So I think that's what you need to train yourself. How do you learn something new? And so the better you can build that muscle of proactively learning something new, you're going to be fine. The other thing I would say is, I think over the last 1 year, I think a lot of us in the US have been introspecting about the humanities, which, because of the focus on STEM, which is science, technology, engineering, math, I think students stopped appreciating humanities. And I think how to communicate, how to synthesize, how to problem solve, and how to basically even write an essay, I think those skills of marrying STEM and communication skills are going to become extremely powerful, because the basic pure problem solving, right? You can put any math Olympiad problem into ChatGPT, it's going to solve it in the next 2 years, if not. So what use is if you can solve those higher order problems? But what is going to be is critical thinking, higher order thinking, and being able to communicate. So I think we all need to hopefully meld the left brain and right brain together. So those are the two things. I think learn how to learn, and don't be, I think we as a society, all of us are so, I think India is probably the number, India and China, very focused on learning STEM skills, but STEM alone might not. Ultimately, the number one thing that these things are going to do well is STEM. They're going to take over all of those functions very fast. And so creativity and being able to communicate are going to be very, very important. So build those skills in addition to pure STEM.
Great. So thank you, Gokul and Addison, for your valuable insights, especially on coming on a Saturday morning, and for in case of Gokul on the late Friday night. So Nipun, over to you for concluding remarks.
Thank you. Before I conclude, I request Rohit, Velanki, Nandita, Shweta, these are the only two girls in the 56 people. Akash, Neha, Acha Neha bhi hai. So Neha, Jay, everybody to turn your videos on so that we can have a good picture, a good smiling picture with everybody. Cool. So Yogi bhai, can you just tilt your camera a bit? Mohan, Mohan, can you turn to the other side so that we can have a good picture? Cool. Smile, everyone. Just a minute. One more. Thank
That's a
you,
wow
everyone.
picture.
So, how can you get connected to ABAIA? You can reach out to me, Diwakar, or Atul. We form the NDA of ABAIA. NDA has again come to power, so now we are also part of it. And keep the discussions going on. Let's keep on brainstorming whatever do we need, how do we keep our jobs, how do we create more jobs in spite of AI. We should all think about that. And with that note, just join us
Can
on
you put just
LinkedIn
1 minute?
as well as the WhatsApp group. And with that note, I'll call upon Atul for the concluding remarks, and then we can all have good Friday for Gokul and good Saturday for every one of us.
Yeah. So guys, we are 6 minutes over time, but thank you very much. I think this is one of the most candid conversation that I've had with VCs, with somebody like Gokul who knows the things very well. But let me tell you, the ABI group conversations are just 5% of the work. We got the precise information, but 95% will be done behind the scenes. So we got the direction, we got the point, but we have to get it going. And of course, like, we come back to after 1 month, 2 months, we have the channels open with Gokul, with Addison, then they look at it and then we work on it. So do join back. There are 4 pillars that we have written. These are the streams of ABI that we are working on. So join on it, join the group, invite your friends from consulting, from sales, from investment. And I'll close on that remark. So action is the word, which we take away from this. Okay. All right, guys. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Bye bye. Have a nice weekend.
रोहित, प्रशांत, पार्थ, तुम लोग रुक सकते हो. प्रशांत तो निकल गया, मुझे लग रहा है. पार्थ भी निकल गया.
I think we can catch up offline, so we can end the webinar.
अच्छा, चलो ठीक है, मैं इसको क्लोज करता हूँ. Thank you very much.